TED is 30. The World Wide Web is celebrating this month its 25th anniversary. So I've got a question for you. Let's talk about the journey, mainly about the future. Let's talk about the state. Let's talk about what sort of a web we want. So 25 years ago then, I was working at CERN. I got permission in the end, after about a year, to basically do it as a side project. Wrote the code. I was at first, I suppose, the first user. There was a lot of concern that people didn't want to pick it up because it would be too complicated. A lot of persuasion, a lot of wonderful collaboration with other people, and bit by bit, it worked. It took off. It was pretty cool. And in fact, a few years later, in 2000, 5% of the world population were using the World Wide Web. 2007, 7 years later, 17%. So 2008, we formed the World Wide Web Foundation, partly to look at that and worry about that figure. And now here we are, 2014, and 40% of the world are using the World Wide Web. Obviously, it's and counting. Obviously, it's increasing. I want you to think about both sides of that. Okay, obviously, to anybody here at TED, the first question you ask is, what can we do to get the other 60% on board as quickly as possible? Lots of important things. Obviously, it's going to be around mobile. But also, I want you to think about the 40%. Because if you're sitting there yourself, sort of with a web-enabled life, you don't remember things anymore, you just look them up, then you may feel that it's been a success and we can all sit back. But in fact, yeah, it's been a success. There's lots of things. There's Khan Academy, for crying out loud. There's Wikipedia. There's a huge number of free ebooks that you can read online. Lots of wonderful things for education. Things in many areas. Online commerce has, in some cases, completely turned upside down the way commerce works altogether, made types of commerce available which weren't available at all before. Commerce has been sort of almost universally affected. Government, not universally affected, but very affected, and in a good day, lots of open data, lots of e-government. So lots of things which are visible happening on the web. Also lots of things which are less visible. The healthcare, late at night, when they're worried about what sort of cancer somebody they care about might have. When they just talk across the internet to somebody who they care about very much in another country. Those sorts of things are not even, they're not out there, and in fact they require a certain amount of privacy. So we kind of assume that part of the web, part of the deal with the web, is when I use the web, it's just a transparent, neutral medium, and I can talk to you over it without worrying about what we in fact now know is happening. Without worrying about the fact that not only will surveillance be happening, but it'll be done by people who may abuse the data. So in fact, suddenly we realize we can't just use the web, we have to worry about the underlying infrastructure of the whole thing. Is it, in fact, of a quality that we need? We revel in the fact that it's got a wonderful, we have this wonderful free speech that we can talk to, we can tweet, and lots and lots of people can see our tweets, except when they can't. Except when actually Twitter is blocked from their country, or in some way the way we have tried to express ourselves has put some information about the state of ourselves, the state of the country we live in, which isn't available to anybody else. So we must protest and make sure that censorship is cut down, and the web is opened up where there is censorship. We love the fact that the web is open. It allows us to talk. Anybody can talk to anybody. It doesn't matter who we are. And then we join these big social networking companies, which are in fact sort of effectively built as silos, so that it's much easier to talk to somebody in the same social network than it is to talk to somebody in a different one. So in fact, we're sort of sometimes limiting ourselves. And we also have this, if you've read the book about the filter bubble phenomenon is that we love to use machines which help us find stuff we like. So we love it when they learn what things we like to click on, and so the machine automatically feeds us the stuff that we like, and we end up with this rose-colored spectacles view of the world called a filter bubble. So here are some of the things which maybe threaten the sort of web we have. What sort of web do you want? I want one which is not fragmented into lots of pieces, as some countries have been suggesting they should do in reaction to the recent surveillance. I want a web which has got, for example, is a really good basis for democracy. I want a web where I can use healthcare with privacy and where there's a lot of health data, clinical data is available to scientists to do research. I want a web where the other 60% get on board as fast as possible. I want a web which is such a powerful basis for innovation that when something nasty happens, some disaster strikes, then we can respond by building stuff to respond to it very quickly. So those are just some of the things that I want. I mean, from a big list, obviously it's longer. You have your list. I want us to use this 25th anniversary to think about what sort of a web we want. You can go to web@25.org and find some links. There are lots of sites where people have started to put together a Magna Carta, a Bill of Rights for the web. How about we do that? How about we decide these are, in a way, becoming fundamental rights, the right to communicate with whom I want. What would be on your list for that Magna Carta? Let's crowdsource a Magna Carta for the web. Let's do that this year. Let's use the energy from the 25th anniversary to crowdsource a Magna Carta for the web. Thank you. And do me a favor. Will you fight for it for me? Okay, thanks. When I invented the World Wide Web, I did it because I was frustrated that it didn't exist. And all the things that were going to happen on top of it. So I didn't create it specifically as an e-commerce platform and social networks and so on. But I did create it as something which was universal, where people could use their imagination to create whatever it was that they could imagine, not just be limited to the things which I could imagine. The web was a place for humans to talk to humans, intermediated by machines. And now with the Internet of Things, suddenly machines are there. They become first-class members of this connected world. What we're seeing already with the Internet of Things is it's starting to become an important force in particular areas. These different use areas, these different industries, in fact, start to connect. What's really exciting now, and what you should all be talking about here at this forum, firstly, how can we make this platform a really good one? Solid, powerful, interoperable. Everything out there in the Internet of Things world can work together and be available for people building on it. And secondly, what are we going to build on top of this new platform? When the web started, in fact, nobody really imagined that you'd be able to make a decent search engine that would be any use at all. And some of the first search engines were terrible. Nobody really imagined how e-commerce would take off. Lots of things which we take for granted now would just twinkle in the eyes of a few crazy people back then. So you need to nurture the twinkles in those eyes. You need to
pick up those ideas which come from imagining a world in which the Internet of Things platform is ubiquitous, is interoperable, in which you can get at all the data, and in which you can then create completely new business models, completely new companies, completely new, wonderful, creative ideas.
저는 HTML5가 그 계기가 될 수 있다라고 생각합니다. 브라우저에서 출발을 하지만 사실 이제 단말기, 휴대폰 단말기에도 가고 있고 또 이 HTML5가 일부에는 이제 브라우저의 OS로 사용이 될 수도 있다라고 보여집니다. 그래서 이 웹페이지 기술들이 요즘에는 이제 광고판에서도 사용이 되고 있죠. 이 광고판에 HTML5를 사용을 해서 다양한 그 기술들이 탑재가 되고 있습니다. 전통적으로 이제 전자회사들이 WC 컨소시엄에 참여를 해왔고 이제 WTML 그 표준을 마련하는데도 기여를 해왔습니다. 이제 TV에서도 WTM5를 사용을 하고 있는데요. 지금 그 사시게 되는 새로운 TV에는 이런 그 WTML5를 사용하는 새로운 소프트웨어들이 들어가게 됩니다. 미래의 차들도 마찬가지겠죠. 이제 차의 콘솔을 보게 되면 HTML5 디바이스들이 탑재될 것이다라고 생각합니다. 따라서 TV와 단말기, 컴퓨터에 들어가는 모든 애플리케이션이 HTML5 기반으로 되는 날이 멀지 않았다라고 생각합니다. 웹 관련된 컨소시엄 관련해서 뭐 구체적인 사항이 필요하시면 한국의 전자전기연구소 에트리 쪽을 연락을 하시면 자세한 정보를 받아보실 수 있겠습니다. 네, 그러면 그 HTML5 관련된 질문에 답변을 드리도록 하겠습니다. 그 HTML이 이제 저희 그 웹의 언어가 되겠고 또 별도로 이제 그래픽 쪽을 보게 되면은 스케일링 벡터 그래픽 SVG가 있었고 그건 상당히 오래된 그 그래픽 기술입니다. 또 CSS, 뭐 캐스케이딩 스타일 쉿 그리고 캔버스가 있는데 사실 저희 컨소시엄 내에서는 이 모든 것들이 로열티를 받지 않고 무료로 제공이 되도록 이제 합의가 되어 있습니다. 이제 앞으로 새롭게 도입이 될 그 기술들에 대해서는 이제 특허가 어떻게 전개될지는 모르겠습니다. 또 최근에 유머가 그 핸드폰의 스와이프 기능 같은 경우에는 이제 특허 적용을 받을 수 있다라는 이야기가 있습니다만 그래픽과 관련해서는 뭐 SVG가 됐던 이런 기술들은 로열티를 받지 않고 있습니다. 또 향후에 이제 기자분들이 또 면밀히 보셔야 되는 분야가 한 군데 있다라고 하면은 비디오 코덱과 관련된 분야가 아닐까 생각이 듭니다. 그 부분에서도 저희가 많은 노력을 기울여서 이제 로열티 없이 진행되도록 지금 많은 노력을 하고 있는데 또 향후에 저희가 봐야 될 부분입니다.
offers users a daunting array of information. You can browse through files on topics of interest, access software, games and graphics, send email,
of society in general. Without that core value,
over here. Please. Hello. Here. You there. Yeah. Robert. Nous, over there. No, Jean-François. Jean-François. Jean-François, ici.
50% of humanity is now using this web thing. So at that point as well, you've got to step back and look. And so what the Web Foundation has done is say, well, there's only two things to do. One is get the other half online as quickly as possible, of course, because it is becoming more and more unfair that they aren't. And the other is for the people who are online, whoops, the web is not the web we wanted in every respect.
You know, the dreams that we've had in the past of being able to access what's called the information superhighway and perhaps do our shopping out on the information superhighway, timetables of planes and trains and buy our tickets, book holidays, all these things are now going to be a reality.
welcome to Siberia, London's first cyberspace.
Parce que c'est pratique, parce que on n'a pas besoin de se déplacer pour faire ses courses. Et vu la vie qu'on mène au quotidien, c'est plutôt pratique.
Je ne suis pas très douée pour certaines choses, mais j'utilise Internet pour avoir des renseignements, pour lire la presse, pour prendre des billets SNCF quand j'y arrive. Voilà.
C'est sûr que ça peut faire peur. Là aujourd'hui, quand on regarde Google, on peut voir tout notre passé, tout notre trajet, etc. C'est vrai que ça pose question, ça fait peur. Mais en même temps, imposer un contrôle trop strict, qui contrôlerait, selon quelles normes, ça aussi, ça pose problème.
When the web started 25 years ago, it was only its openness to people innovating on it. But now when we look back over 25 years, almost half the people in the world are using the web. But I think some of us initially had big hopes that the internet is going to lead to a society in which inequality fades away because everybody has got the same possibilities, everybody has got the same advantages, just starting off connecting themselves to the net. Guess what? That hasn't happened. In fact, here we are 25 years after the first web page, and a lot of non-profits, a lot of governments are realizing that we have a crisis of inequality. And so every time people put more powerful things on the web, we actually increase the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Things need to be said explicitly for the internet because the internet gives you a certain power that you wouldn't have had before. As people have started to think about access to the internet more as a right, then that begs the question, okay, should we have a Bill of Rights for the internet? Snowden changed that dramatically by putting those revelations onto the table, that it really started the conversation. And I think we're indebted to Edward Snowden for actually introducing that material in a way that I think nothing else could have done that. There have always been forces to try to control the internet. When you're a government of a country, it's very tempting to want to govern the internet within your country. Trouble is, it doesn't work, because the internet is not a thing of countries. You can put in barriers, you can put in firewalls, but as you do that, suddenly your country, your people, your entrepreneurs, your teachers have all lost their voice. We have to be reactive when we realize that, whoa, actually this country or this company has stepped over the mark, and we have to immediately take to the streets with placards and shouting. So in 10 years' time, we'll see certain natural progressions. We'll see the internet speeds be very high, so it'll get to the point where the internet will be able to carry everything that your eyes can perceive, just as when you listen to stereo, the internet can feed you anything your ears can hear. It gets enough fidelity. Whether the internet is an open space or a closed space, I'm not going to predict. It's up to us. It all decides on what we do now, on the decisions we make now.